and she practiced Buddhist teaching. Then after some, I think a few years, then at the end of her life, it seems the Christian concept seems to see come closer her mind. So therefore, I noticed the person who changed religion sometimes create more confusion. So therefore, it is safer to follow one's own tradition. However, among millions of people, some may have sort of, some have mental sort of, inclination. One's own tradition is not much effective, so no longer any interest, but at the same time want some spirituality. And then eventually Buddhist sort of way of approach, Buddhist way of practice is more sort of, suitable, or find more interest, then develop interest. Like Tibetan, among Tibetan, of course Tibetan, around 6 million Tibetan, I think more than 90% are Buddhist. But some Muslims there, at least in the last, I think, at least 4 centuries, some Muslim among Tibetans there. In 20th century, some Christians also, some Tibetan follow Christianity, so some Christians there. So likewise, the West, mainly Christian, is a Christian country, but among them, some individuals may have more interest about other tradition, particularly tradition of India and particularly Buddhism, like that. So suppose they are American, but you say, with I think great effort reading those Tibetan words. I think without knowing the meaning. In any case, so now since you really
since you have developed deep interest in Buddhism,
I hope Kishila chance of shoot forced and conversion is
it is my hope that you have not become Buddhist because of Geshe-la's forcible conversion.
If that is the case, I will oppose. If Geshe-la generally sort of teach you about Buddha Dharma and give you some kind of choice, leave it sort of free choice, then okay. So I think I have to say, Geshe-la, since many years I know him, and he, I think, very, very sincere sort of practitioner, because when I give some teachings, some major teachings in India, he often comes. And he, not among sort of audience, some when teaching sort of lasted few hours, then some audience remember. But Geshe-la not like that. Always very fresh and often dear. When I becoming sort of so moved, right? So moved, and tear comes, then he easily is joined. So that means he had some genuine feeling, some experience. So I would like to thank, as a follower of Buddha, I myself, a follower of Buddha, a tiny follower, small follower of Buddha. Geshe-la Dilip Chungmen.
Maybe Geshe-la is even smaller.
But in any way, one of the main practice of Buddha Dharma, especially according to Bodhisattva sort of teaching, the dedication to serve others, not only this life, but infinitely. So one of my favorite sort of prayer, so long space remains, Tilaka.
As long as space remains and as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of sentient beings.
So that's some kind of our pledge, Bharat.
It's like the pledge of a Mahayana practitioner.
So with that motivation, in whatever way, some service, some help to sentient beings in general, and particularly human beings. So now, the real blessing of Buddha must develop within ourselves. Buddha always stressed to his follower, my follower, you are your own master. So the follower of Buddha ourselves should practice well. And through that way, we gain more, first level, we gain more inner peace. And with that, when we come across some problems, when we come across these, because of inner peace, some value, inner strength, we can be better positioned to face these problems. And then eventually, I think Buddha's teachings, the main emphasis is, main task is struggle with our negative emotion. Our goal is Buddhahood, complete salvation.
Complete freedom.
So the path, not of our minds. Firstly, we need wisdom and enthusiasm. So enthusiasm also much depends on the wisdom. So therefore, in order to gain wisdom, knowledge is very important. So study is very crucial. According to Tibetan tradition, our Tibetan tradition is actually the pure tradition of Nalanda. So I think the Nalanda tradition, the study is very, very crucial. So study as much as you can. That gives you deeper awareness about the reality, external reality, internal reality, present reality. And on that basis, there is also the possibility of change. Change is also part of nature. Always change, always change. with certain effort, change can be more positive. So that's so therefore the study should know, get the knowledge, fuller sort of knowledge of the reality, and then through that way, eventually you will develop some kind of enthusiasm to transform, for transformation of our mind. Because we want happiness. Nobody wants suffering. If there is a way to overcome suffering, then it's naturally worthwhile to pursue. So, knowledge, then that bring enthusiasm, then enthusiasm or determination with self-confidence, then practice. So the practice level, Shila,
ethical discipline or morality.
And then thing is,
Next is the training in concentration,
then Shila,
and then finally training in cultivating insight into selflessness.
자, 땅 알아서 일이 러버 숨기, 그런 냐면 제가 글리스트고를 쓰다보이나 시향을 내게 맞췄어요.
So the question is, how do we apply these practices of the three higher trainings, morality, concentration, and insight or wisdom into our day-to-day life? The first stage is to refrain ourselves from indulging into negative actions that are harmful to self and others.
And revolution panda.
And if possible, on the level of ethical practice, one should also be proactive and help others.
And extreme self-centered news.
Then try to decrease intensity of one's self-centeredness.
Selflessness.
However, when we speak of selflessness in the Buddhist ethical context, one should not confuse or understanding it in terms of, sort of suggesting some kind of total disregard to one's own interest, because the very sort of premise of a spiritual path in Buddhism is to seek liberation and freedom.
Then some with things is said, I don't know about the Yamaldi, she says with things is said, for Sinjuna, continuing on the very on the yard. That Delhi are raw chair, Chagan so tension party. They don't need that, then 2 years ago, then why?
As for the second training, which is the training in concentration or meditation, although in our day-to-day life we do not experience this training in a very high degree of development, but at the same time we do experience instances of a single pointedness in our day-to-day life. So what is required is to try to enhance this natural capacity that we all possess. And here the key is to really cultivate mindfulness and vigilance or introspection.
That the name should have said that they are so the damage of a shirt ready in a damage said a casual shimbari. Case may be casual in Guamari. The day is done for a case chide, chinny, chidi, shape chain, shaking into the shape of a Russian maybe chinny in start some.
And then with regard to the third training, which is the training in wisdom or insight, in the Buddhist context, although the key insight that we are aiming to cultivate is the insight into no self or anatman, selflessness. However, when we speak of no self or anatman in the Buddhist context, we are talking about understanding the manner in which things exist. We are talking about a certain characteristic or nature of reality. So in order to ground that understanding, one must also have a deeper knowledge of the diversity of phenomena upon which we are trying to cultivate this insight of no self.
세상을 넘어서 뭐냐면 차 토브 시합이 있는다. 띵지 러버 시로 러버 마음버리 알지. 다 이내 거라 러버 띵이 붙기 시제 냠는 일이 나고 뒤로.
So although these three higher trainings particularly the higher training in concentration and wisdom, the highest level of them do come later on as one progresses on the spiritual path. The standard qualified states of concentration and wisdom arise later on. However, in our day-to-day life, we do possess sort of similitudes of these faculties, such as single-pointedness and also insight.
Oh, yeah. So, since a serious Buddhist practitioner, keep the three trainings. And then other prayers and the recitation of mantras, these are shorter.
These are something that is done on the side. The main practice is the 3 higher trainings.
아주 바로 망구찌기, 가가지고 말이 개미 망구찌기, 다 저기 너번다야 다 나타야 조체, 상도야디 투쇼신체, 노리사 중요해.
However, in the case of many traditional Buddhists, such as Tibetans, that also includes the Chinese Buddhists as well, sometimes there is a tendency to get the priorities wrong. We tend to regard the mantra recitations and chanting as the main component of the practice, and then we leave the contemplation and the reflection side with regard to the 3 higher trainings as something done on the side.
Then this is surely. 러버스 문양이 전에 타워터야다. 사실 제가 보면 타워야요. 먼저고 장제 타워터야 가오샤.
We can say that through the practice of 3 higher trainings, one can definitely attain liberation, moksha, nirvana. However, with the recitation of Om Mani Padme, the 6-syllable mantra alone, and there will be no possibility of attaining liberation.
자, today 인사 내는 이제 점으로 점이 처음 얻어인다. 제 땅도 들어줄 집에 나고 저래. 경쟁 통 내가 세게 통은 나고 저다.
So therefore I tell to a lot of people, partly as a joke, partly serious, that now that we are in the 21st century, we Buddhists must try to be a truly 21st century Buddhist. And how I define...
Tibetan Buddhist.
Sorry, 21st century.
Tibetan Buddhist. 나고 영어는